Yeah, my name is Jim Hallbeisen, Director of Research, and I'm going to be in charge of the conference calls. And basically, what we're going to do in the past, in the beginning, what we did at the front end of the call was talk about some of the current events, and I pretty well dominated that. So, what I've asked James Schlitz and Chris Cole to kind of get part of that of the call to give some of the things that they're running into. I get feedback from guys in the field that want to chat about what's happening in the field on the farm, particularly. And that way we can get that from three different individuals. I'm sure we're talking to different areas of the country. And what I'll focus on a little bit on myself is we're running beans now, and I can talk a little bit about that, how that's going, how the yields look, what we're surprised at. So that'll kind of give you some idea what's happening here in Northwest Ohio. But the focus of the call, what we have done in the past is use the calendar as our focus. And the picture for October this year is Bruce Nass. Bruce has been with us for a long time. His dad started with us. Bruce has actually done one of the calls in the past, so he's got a little bit of experience with that. But Bruce is a little bit east of Buffalo, vegetable farmer, also a row crop farmer. And he can talk about the program, how they've implemented it, how they use it. He gave it a whirl in the New York Corn Contest and was very competitive. And not much was said as he wasn't putting on a whole lot of fertility and still very competitive. So, and then we will also have Stanley Sensenich. Stanley's like third generation growers guy. He reps for us in the Finger Lakes area. We actually worked with Stanley this summer, seeing several of his customers. So we'll let Stanley talk about it. And again, this October call, in the past, we have let the home office talk a lot about what the things they are doing with procurement and that type of thing, because getting farmers out of the field to convince about their operation sometimes can be difficult. So guys are dead tired by the end of the day, but these guys have said they could chat a little bit. And then our third individual, Kervin Horst, now we're working on fourth generation growers guy. Kervin is John Sensenich's grandson. His dad used the product. He was married to John's daughter. So again, we're very proud of that. We have these multi-generational growers guys that find the program works very, very nicely. So what I'd like to do this evening is start out with, let's start with Chris Kohls. Chris, if you can unmute yourself and get on and talk a little bit about what you've been doing or guys you've been talking to. What did you see this summer that was of interest to you? And just kind of give guys a synopsis of what kind of feedback you're getting from the field.
Well, thanks, Jim. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, sound great.
Okay, great. Well, I just want to remind everybody, it is the kickoff of our sales season, and we do have our discounts available. We did lower the price this year, 1.5%. We're down to $16.75 a gallon and $6.10 a liter in Canada. So I wanted to get that out of the way. But anyway, Jim, yeah, it was an interesting season. You know, we've traveled all over the place and saw a lot of different things. A lot of different weather patterns, and some people are soaking wet, some people are bone dry. I was amazed how some of the growers' customers were getting through the really hard times. Especially when we were down in that western part of Minnesota and down towards South Dakota, how wet they were, and still we're getting pretty decent crops from some of our growers guys down there. And then heading up to Minnesota, one of the, adventures we had this year that I just wrote an article on, the upcoming solution was on the sweet corn guy, the Jansen farm up in Minnesota. Just that operation and going into that sweet corn field was just amazing to see how clean it was, how green it was, and obviously the sweet corn was unbelievable. We were eating it right out of the field, but Some of the other, and down south, the last few weeks that's really gotten hammered down there. I know I was talking to Bob Merck down there probably about, I think it was right before the first tornado or hurricane that went through down there. And he was telling me how wet they'd been all season. And then getting hammered again, it looks like, from this last one after getting hammered from the other one. So I can only imagine how wet it is down there. And I'd love to hear from if the Merck, I don't know if you're on there tonight, or if Weaver can give us Daniel Weaver could give us an update of just how it's going down there with yourself and maybe some of the customers around you. Feel free to jump in, because we'd love to hear an update of how it's going down there. And when we went up to New York, to see, John Sesnick and Stanley and Curvin and, Bruce, that was all, they had seemed like perfect weather up there. I didn't hear much complaint about the weather up there. Now, it may have changed a little bit since we were up there. It's been about a month or so, but it looked like they were going to have a wonderful season up there. I saw Mike Bolshier last week. We spent a little time with Dave Link, one of our new reps down there. Excited to have him on board. And they've had a tough season down there. I think they started out wet, and now it's gotten really, really dry down there. So it'll be interesting to see how that yields are coming. And we've heard updates from Jim all season. It seems like his has done pretty well. I know it's gotten really dry up in this area for the last few weeks, and it looks like it's going to be dry for, I guess, the next few weeks. It looks like there's a little bit of rain coming in, but anyway, I'd love to hear some other updates out there from anybody that wants to chime in on how it's going in your area. I think it's important to have this network up and running and guys sharing how it's going around the country, so it can give you a little bit of faith that it may not be as bad as you think it is. Did talk to a few guys up in Canada. I know they're busy harvesting up there. And seems like they've had some decent weather up there as well. But other than that, I know next week we are going to be down at the Sunbelt Expo down in Moultrie, Georgia. Daniel Weaver will be manning a booth down there. I'll be there along with him. So if you're in that area, feel free to stop by. That's always a really good farm show. It's well attended, and Daniel does a really great job down there. But anyway, I don't know if Bob Merck, I see you're on there. Do you want to give us an update how it's going on down there?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you hit *6, I think you can unmute yourself. And he may not be able to jump on. I kind of jumped him on a surprise. I didn't pre-plan this, so he may not be ready to chime in. But anyway, Jim, I don't know if you want to go ahead and get started with your format, or.
Yeah, no, that's fine, Chris. Nice job, appreciate it. Yeah, I agree with Chris. Hey, Daniel Weaver, unmute yourself if you can while I'm chatting away here. Daniel, last Friday, we conduct a sales call every first and third Friday of the month for our guys, and try to get updates from areas around the country. And with the recent hurricanes, Daniel did a real nice job of discussing the problem the cotton guys have got. And I was having a chat with Daniel the other day, and he was talking about some kind of infection that some of the soybeans have got down there from one of the seed companies. And it's turned into quite a problem in the area down there. So, Daniel, would you chat a little bit about that for us and kind of give the guys an update on that?
Okay, sure. Good evening, everyone. It's the soybean thing that Jim's talking about. It's a certain variety that they look good and decent. We had one that was on our program, and I thought could make at least 50 up to 70 bushels, and but I seen there was some pods on there that were getting kind of moldy and drying up, and so we kept watching him, and then finally it got ready to combine, and he went in there and got one load and then took them took a sample up to the where we haul them to, and them beans, they just that mold or whatever it is, and somebody needs that. They're doing some checking on it, trying to figure out what it is. But that variety has everywhere that variety is planted has done that. They look good up until the beans are pretty much made, and then they start shriveling up, and they get the mold in it, and they actually rejected his beans, and he's pretty much saying he's going to have to hair them up. I hadn't heard now in the last day or two if it made a definite decision on it, but he said that they said it's at least 15% bad beans in there. He said he thought they were really being kind to him to say 15%. He thought it was more like close to 50%. They just really dried up and looked bad. So all that variety is that way. And I hadn't seen it in any other beans except that variety. And that's kind of what we're dealing with on that.
Chat a little bit about the cotton and the hurricane, Daniel. I found that pretty interesting about bull set and with the weather and the wind and what happens to guys.
All right. Well, cotton is really vulnerable to hurricanes or bad weather. As long as the bowls don't open, it's not too bad as long as the wind don't get really bad. But if them bowls will open up and you get a lot of wind, it just blows the cotton right out of the bowls. And it has some of them fields that were ready to pick. All the bowls were open, and they've lost up to 70, 80% of their cotton. It just blew it out. Now, if the bowls are not open, the wind will blow and it'll tangle them all up, and it makes it a tremendous problem to pick. But you can at least pick it. But it's terrible slow, and it's a mess. So wind is not good for cotton. Wind and rain together, especially.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good, Daniel. Hey, I really appreciate it. That gives these guys a little bit of perspective, what a guy has to deal with, in the South, especially with these hurricanes coming in. Appreciate it, Daniel.
Jim, can I jump in on that on mold and all?
Yeah, this is James Slitz. I'm ready to have you jump in, and you can educate us on whatever you want to educate us on.
So as we're talking mold, I'm James Schultz. I'm up here in the thumb of Michigan. Joined the company in April, and I've been in the thumb for about 10 years now. So there's a lot of dry bean or edible bean production here. Black turtle beans would be the most common, navy, kidneys, pintos, cranberries, and azukis. As we get on the bottom of that list, that's more the specialty beans. There's a good 100,000 acres of them up here. Last fall's conditions of heavy wet weather with double the rainfall in the second half of the season left the soil profile very soggy and lacking a lot of oxygen. And you could really see it this spring. The early planted beans that then got hit with 4 and 5 inches of rain really struggled. Dry beans do not like wet feet at all. They will stop nodulating and just crash in waterlogged conditions. But as they're harvesting this year, that's definitely what I'm hearing. Yields are a little off. The later planted beans where the soil got to warm up and air out are doing much better. And they didn't have the disease problems, but the early planted beans in harder, tighter conditions than normal, lacking oxygen, disease was definitely more prevalent. So that just backs up that growers program that keeping the calcium numbers up and keeping the soil aerated and healthy make all the difference. So from what I've seen traveling the country this summer already, you guys are doing a great job with that. Keep it up.
So, James, talk a little bit about where you're at exactly, tonight and what kind of weather you're seeing and, what are the guys talking about?
So I'm in Emily City. If you're familiar with Michigan, I'm east of Flint, about 40 minutes, and north of Detroit, about an hour and 10. I'm in the base of the thumb. We've got water on more or less 3 sides of us. And we've got a lot of sugar beet production, about 130,000 acres of sugar beets. So that'd be our specialty crops: sugar beets, dry beans, a lot of forages for large dairies, corn, soybeans, and some vegetable production. Just outside of town where I live here, there's 2,000 acres of muck that they grow lettuce, parsnips, rhubarb, and carrots on, as well as onions. So that's a niche crop market for sure. Weather has definitely been drier than normal. We've been the absolute opposite of last fall. I would say we're even drier than Ohio and the I-states, it seems. But we're also very moderated in temperature. The dairy cows really like it because it doesn't get real hot with all the water surrounding us. They often refer to it as the battery that takes forever to warm up or to cool down. So it makes a little microclimate here for sure.
So I'm assuming that if it's dry, that guys are way ahead of schedule with harvest. I mean, how you looking at beans? Chat a little bit about sugar beets. No, a lot of guys don't have a lot of experience with sugar beets.
So yeah, soybean harvest for sure is definitely ahead of schedule. 2 days ago at the coffee shop circle with guys, they were saying in a day or two some of them are going to be done. There has been some mold problems, and interestingly, one of the guys that was sitting at that table who I've worked with closely in the last 3 years and been putting lots of calcium on was the only guy at the table who didn't have mold. So that was pretty encouraging.
Yes. Yes.
Sugar beets it's a tough dig right now. That's a root crop for sure. So with the hard soils, they're coming along. They're not the highest yield. Sugar content's a little higher. So sugar beets, you're defoliating the beet, taking the top off, and then digging the root beet out of the ground, separating the dirt from it, and taking it to the piling grounds that are then sifting more dirt off, piling the majority of them right now to be stored in piles, and then it goes through the plant in a distillation process to recover the sugar and make white sugar out of that. It's a very, very regulated, controlled crop and harvest. There's a quota system nationally to regulate how much sugar is produced, so they have to own stocks in the company. Otherwise, the vegetable production and all, of course, that's localized into certain regions, but it's diverse climate up here in ag.
Yeah, no, very good. Thanks, James. That kind of gives us a base. For my part of the presentation, guys, basically, we've got a WASAID report tomorrow. So, the government's going to decide, where this production is at. And, the stocks and all position report, that was very encouraging for us. They cut the stocks back on both corn and beans, not very much, but it did give the market some vigor. But it looks like that really wasn't the driving factor. The experts are basically saying the investors were short the market very, very significantly this summer. And they've been buying those shorts back, and that's encouraged, an increase in price for both corn and beans and wheat. But again, it's been very, very short-lived. And they're thinking that maybe we've already passed the high point here in the fall harvest. So we'll see. They took away about half to 3/4 of what they gave us. So again, this is something guys are going to have to make a guess on this. They're thinking that a lot of farmers had not done a lot of forward contracting because when the price was falling out of bed this spring, guys just basically held back and thought that we would get some price improvement, during the summer, which never did show up. So again, at this point, and they're using Brazil against us. They're way behind in planting, but everybody's saying it's very short-lived. That now we got the rains coming, but again, this is all predictive that it's going to happen. So again, that could change the whole market structure if these guys can't get started planting down there. So as far as the market is concerned, there's still a lot of uncertainty other than, the U.S. government has been really using it as a weapon against the farmer, in my opinion. They want this controlled, and they've got it under control at this point. As far as other things that are coming in, current events, the thing I find most interesting, guys, is they had pretty well killed and buried the dairy industry. If you weren't milking 10,000 cows, you might as well get out of it because you aren't going to be able to survive. Well, when this bird flu started raising its head in the chicken industry and was giving them a lot of problems, it started to siphon over into the beef industry, particularly the dairy industry. And most of the veterinarian experts with dairy cows were saying, yeah, this is really not a problem. The cows will be a little out of sorts to begin with, but they're going to bounce right back because the strain is basically more situated for avian or for chickens and turkeys and that type of thing. And John Sensennick talked about this with me quite a bit. When he was a young guy just getting out of school and getting himself going, he worked in a feed manufacturing plant. And he said, Jim, that feather meal, man, that stuff would come in and it was, all ground up, and those feathers were just constantly full of manure. And so he said that's going into that meal. So when these big herds are using this feather meal for feed, the chances of, inducting that over into the dairy cow could be pretty significant. Well, starting last spring, they were having issues with this. And the first thing they did is they started testing red meat to see if it was going through the beef chain. And then they were testing milk also. And they did find some of the influenza virus in milk, but they were finding that if it had gone through some kind of pasteurization, that it wasn't viable at that point. So there was, avian influenza, in the dairy industry. And they were saying that really, the big herds and their sanitation progress or processes, this wouldn't be a problem. Well, guess what? This week, they have found a very significant problem with the bird flu in dairy cows. And we aren't talking just cows going off feed or cows that aren't producing milk. They're losing cows. And the experts, the so-called veterinarian experts, were saying that, they just don't see anything more than a couple percent at best in this loss situation. Well, what they're finding out is it's closer to 20%. Some of these big herds are losing up to 20% of the cows to the avian influenza per se. And see, right now, they've been keeping a lid on that pretty closely. And most of the chatter is in the West Coast dairies or in the California dairies. And see, with this beef thing, the way it is, or the price of beef per se, a lot of guys have gone to breeding their animals with beef replacements and then buying dairy replacements. And see, that's really put the pressure on the dairy replacement market. And it really hasn't done a whole lot for the beef market because the price for beef has stayed up there. And see, they have not taken into consideration, the guys that have basically had to get rid of cows because of the drought in East Texas. And so what they're saying now is they think that this dairy price is going to start to get pretty significant. And part of the issue is dairy exports. Fluid milk is not the driver for the dairy business. It's basically cheese. And this thing has really catapulted. And I think, if you think about that, even when I travel for growers and some of the meetings that we're doing, we're bringing in pizza for the guys, and everybody is pretty well accustomed to that. And I'll tell you, man, you look at some of these pizzas that like my grandkids are eating. It's just basically bread dough and cheese, and they sprinkle a little, meat on there or some kind of paste on there to flavor it. But the cheese is a very, very big item there. And see, that's what they're saying. And they think that this avian flu effect on the dairy industry is going to have a definite effect on milk prices eventually, because the export for us in the U.S. is the export of cheese. So again, with a 20% loss in these big herds in the West, we may see that some of these smaller operations are going to be able to capitalize on this. They're already using the beef replacement thing as a cash flow item for them. And several of the guys we visited this summer were chatting about, this is the approach they've used, because, when you can get $1,000 for, 3 or 4 day old calf, man, these guys are saying this works out very nicely for them. So again, I think this is very, very interesting. The dairy industry has tried to convince us. Well, I think all of agriculture has tried to convince us that these large operations are so well run that we have absolutely no problems. And all of a sudden, Mother Nature has kind of got involved with this and has given them some serious problems. So it could get pretty interesting as far as what happens in the dairy business. And, one of the gentlemen that will chat this evening, Curvin, he's milking cows. We get him on, we'll let him chat a little bit about what he's seeing as far as, milk prices are concerned, and where he thinks this thing is going to go. And as far as what he's doing, if he's doing any of this beef on dairy breeding, or, the kind of feedback that he's getting on that particular thing. As far as the other current events are concerned, there's one other one, and again, it has to do with the avian flu, although it isn't the flu itself. There are some larger chicken farms in the Midwest that are running into salmonella problems. They've got the eggs that have been done by FDA as being contaminated. And then there's another large operation, Pure Pride or something like that, which is in northeast Iowa. It's an old chicken processing plant that went defunct, and then some new guys come in and tried to get it going. And so they contracted with a lot of farmers in Iowa, southeastern Minnesota, over in Wisconsin. And these guys went belly up. And these guys that were contracted with them are running out of feed, and they've got these barns full of birds and no feed because the company itself is bankrupt. So what they have done is brought the government in, both local and the feds, and they're euthanizing a lot of these birds, and then they're trying to find some feed, to try to keep these birds alive until they can be euthanized. So again, we're back to the same issue of big is better. And this seems to be an issue when somebody can't make the payment. So I think this is something where, as a company, we've tried to stay conservative. And I think that's something that has served a lot of guys, very well, to try to get through some of these times when you just don't know what's going to be happening. So according to my roster here, I did see Bruce's number. And Bruce, if you can unmute yourself, or *6, and come on for me and chat a little bit, I'd be very interested in that. Like I said, Bruce is located east of Buffalo. He's a vegetable guy, and also has row crop production over there. Chris mentioned that last summer when we were traveling with John Sensenik, we had a chance to get on Bruce's farm, and it's kind of interesting. One thing that's kind of increased in his area is the solar panels. And there's a lot of them that are putting them in. Actually, Bruce is putting a few of those in himself. So again, that was kind of interesting to see those types of things show up. So, and again, I thought I had Bruce, but I can't find him right now. Are you out there, Bruce?
I I don't know. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there you are, man. Hey, I kind of lost your number, so I'm glad you're on. So, what I'd like you to do, Bruce, is just talk about your operation, exactly where you're located. What feeds the cash flow of your farm, and I was under the impression from Jim Johns that your dad started with us, and then you just kind of followed along behind, and that was a few years ago. And you can kind of talk about, you've got a lot of rented ground and how you work with limestone and how you work with the product, and that just gives guys an overview of what's happening, in the state of New York.
Well, the state of New York is definitely a tough place to do business. Our farm is basically at the end of Lake Erie on the northern end, right between Buffalo and Rochester. If you drew a line up Lake Erie right down the middle, you'd come up to our farm. We get about 120, 130 inches of snow a year. So the moisture is always the issue. But we work a couple thousand acres. We grow corn, soybean, wheat. We also grow vegetables for canning, snap beans. We grow a very fine bean, a tiny bean for canning, sweet corn, peas, occasionally spinach. And we've been growing azuki beans the last 3 years, trying to, broaden our horizon, because corn and beans don't cut it here. We can't achieve the bigger yields, and our basis is terrible. So we've tried everything to try to find a niche to hang on, so to speak. But my grandfather started with growers back in the 70s, and we've just kept using the product right straight through. We like it because it stays in suspension. You haven't got to worry about issues where, like when we plant snap beans, we might be on today to plant X number of acres, and then you have to wait 4 or 5 days or a week. You just shut the planter off, come back in a week, and start planting again. We've enjoyed that ability to not have to clean a planter. We have a neighbor that's big in I think it's a black gold. Does that sound like a product? It does not stay suspended, and they've had a lot of trouble trying to make that stuff work. So in the vegetable business, we've had luck with it. If our sprayer goes across the field, we have some kind of growers in there, whether it's fungicide. We have to cross so many times, you might as well put something in there and make it worthwhile.
So, hey, you're still there, Bruce?
Yeah,
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the type of soil you have, and then what you've done with high calcium lime.
Well, we have a lot of ground we call 10 o'clock ground. 9 o'clock's too early, 11 o'clock's too late. So you try to get that little hour window, so to speak. But we do have a lot of rented ground because our current state environment is pushing renewable energy pretty hard. And a lot of folks have signed up for solar panels or windmills. And we've gone to using gypsum as a way to kind of throw calcium on rented ground, not knowing the longevity. And we do use a lot of high calcium gypsum on ground we own. We try to keep the gypsum in the mix just to try to grow a decent crop. We don't want to have the humongous yields. We just want to have something that returns a profit. we have a few guys that spend a lot of money to get huge crops, but at the end of the day, did they make anything? I don't know. So playing with rented ground, we have to kind of be careful, and gypsum's been a good source of that. Uh, but we do use a lot of lime, a lot of high calcium lime, and I think it's paid dividends.
So, Bruce, I want you to chat a little bit about this. These solar panels. We're seeing this around the country. In the South, we're seeing it. In the heart of the Corn Belt too. What can you talk about that as far as the big question a lot of guys have was once they outlive their usefulness, you got these things mounted on concrete pillars that go down to the ground quite a ways. What are guys chatting about? What are the lawyers telling them to beware of? And how serious are guys about this thing? And the other thing right now, they're talking about, getting guys to graze underneath these panels rather than mow the grass. And so what do you know about any of that stuff?
Well, the solar piece here for us has become a case of NIMBY, not in my backyard. The power that they're trying to get is going to New York City, which is a long ways away from where we live. But they've kept pushing the solar panels from New York City west until they found basically towns that don't have any industry. And they kind of promised the town a lot of money, host agreement. There's a lot of little moving pieces they throw out there, the carrot. And a farm adjacent to us, they signed up for solar panels in 2019. And we opted to put a few on our farm on the heavier ground to try to take advantage of the revenue. The only problem that we've had is as inflation is taking over, in 2019, the values that they wanted to pay for solar panels is now not as great as what we anticipated. The inflation is eating pretty hard into that. But the unfortunate thing is these solar panels, in our case, are on a 41-year lease. So it's like blacktop. Once you put it down, they're never going away. So I guess I'm not against renewable energy. I guess I wish that we had done our homework a little better. We trusted the industry. It was in its infancy. And I kind of believe at the time it was like the Wild West. They did what they thought they needed to do to get you to agree. And it's kind of rapidly evolved to just get it done no matter what the cost. So I'm not knocking what it can do. I just don't like the way the process is unfolded. Maybe it's just a New York thing, but it's a very scary thing. We've basically signed away this portion of the farm and the lease for 41 years. I'm 60. I'll never see the end of this. And at 41 years, it comes back to the landowner. My personal opinion is I believe these solar panels will become the next Love Canal, where they're going to walk away from them at some point in time when they become efficient and say, well, government, you wanted them, you clean them up.
Mm-hmm. So, hey, Bruce, the other thing I'd like you to chat a little bit about, what's the weather been like? And, where are you in your harvest now? How has the harvest been going for you? Just chat a little bit about that.
Well, being on the east side of the lake, and Lake Ontario was just north of us, we get a lot of cloud cover. So we've been doing soybeans for the last probably 10 days. And we haven't taken any off that are less than 13 and a half. We run most of them through the dryer. Very rarely do we get many that are below 13. The weather here hasn't been bad. It's really been quite a decent fall for us. Mm-hmm. It's just been a slow grind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on our farm, Bruce, we're getting some pumpkins and limas in there. But still it's, the moisture in it is, mid 13 or less, then the stuff where the emergence was pretty good. It's 9 and 10. And, I was talking to a guy in Minnesota today saying that they're got some guys up there at 8%, and they're docking them for being too dry. So, do you see any of those lima beans or pumpkins in your beans when you're harvesting, and then the dryer pretty well handles that for you?
We do have a lot of bloated beans, if you want to call them that.
Okay.
But they did come up very uneven. We tended to have, for some reason this year, I don't know if you want to call it climate change, whatever term you want to use. We had, we planted soybeans, and the next day you get an inch and a half of rain in an hour and a half, so we really like to cement our crops in the ground hard and make them work. So when we did that, you got the uneven crop, and now we're kind of paying the price for it. Is you've got green stem beans, you've got bloaters, you've got ones that are dry, but we throw them in the dryer, and magically they come out fine, I guess. So our mind, we believe that's a good thing. We actually did some beans yesterday that were 17%. Everybody in the neighborhood, the sun was out, everybody ran for a couple hours, and everybody's got a dryer humming tonight. So we're trying, but we'll get there. We always do.
So something that's 17%, what do you knock that down to? You get it down to 13?
Yeah. And at 17%, I don't care what color combine you have. It tends to make them work, and you don't do the best job of combining. But when you look at Mother Nature going to give us some rain here this weekend, you try to take advantage of it.
Sure, understand. Hey, Bruce, really appreciate it. It's just exactly what I had in mind. So good luck, and hope things keep going forward for you. I don't know. The weather guys I'm talking to or listening to, I guess I should say, they're saying, we got this big cold front coming in, and we're going to see it over the weekend. And they're showing us a little bit of rain on Saturday, but then we're supposed to be back in the 50s with lows in the 30s. But a week from Saturday, they show us back up in the 70s. So whether that's going to be Indian summer or not, we'll see. So that's probably what you're looking at, I would say.
Whatever weather you get, we get a couple days later. So get us some good weather.
We'll try not to hog it all. We certainly didn't hog the rain this year. We never got it, so we sent you nothing. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, Stanley, I see your number on there. If you can unmute yourself. This is Stanley Sensenik, Stanley's third generation. This is John's son. They live in the Finger Lakes region. That's where John came originally. And Stanley took over the dairy, or took over the farm, and John's been repping for us, and Stanley has been doing some repping for us also. And again, we had a visit with him this summer that went very nicely, talking with his guys. And again, I just would like Stanley to kind of chat about what kind of operation you have. He's into the beef side of it, cow calf, and corn, beans, wheat, what his approach is there, and what your fall's been like, and what your season was like. So if you're ready, Stanley, go ahead and talk a little bit about your operation.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah. Give us a little more volume if you can, Stanley. Then you got guys like me that got these hearing aids that aren't always the greatest. So.
Okay, I'll try to speak up there a bit.
Yeah, very good. Hey, that's excellent.
Is that better? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're, like Jim said, we're in corn, wheat, beans. We do a bit of hay too. Can't forget that part. That's the hard part of it. And we used to have dairy for 13 years, and we switched to beef over time, going cow calf now. So doing that for probably 10, 12 years now. So we do cow calf, and then we fatten them too. I calve them out, and then I fatten all my ears out on the farm here. So all I'm selling is fat cattle at the end. Mm-hmm. And working out pretty good. I just actually weaned the calves today, so keep all my neighbors awake for the next couple nights here. So all the cattle out there making a lot of noise. Calves aren't too happy about it, or the cows. But no, we're coming along with doing soybean harvest. A little like Bruce says, we're sort of in the same shoes on that. We're sort of in the middle of beans. I'd say probably good 50 to 75% of the beans been done in this area. So we're sort of having the same weather, cloudy, and beans are slow now. And I think the driest it is about 13% late afternoon. So we're picking away at that. Nobody's locally here started corn harvest yet. That's sort of guys are trying to get beans down. The wheat planted. There's still some wheat going in the ground. We no-tilled some the other day. So there's a couple neighbors that are still putting some out here this week, trying to get it done there before the rains move in. Talking over the weekend, little chances of showers. So that's
Hey, Stanley?
progress.
Are you on the dry? Are you on the dry side?
We're not exactly dry. We're moist. We're not wet, but we're not exactly dry either. I mean, there's a couple guys that have been doing a little bit of tillage, shallow tillage for wheat, and it's moist. There's plenty of moisture there. You know, you wouldn't want to dig it up too far. They're just working the top with a disc light or a speed tiller or something and letting it dry out for a couple of days and then plant wheat. So yeah, we have enough moisture. We're decent. The water table's still down, but there's plenty of moisture in the topsoil. My pond is not up to where it normally is. And,
What do you do? What do you do on wheat, Stanley? Can you kind of tell us your fertility program?
Well, yeah, as far as the wheat, there we do 3.5 gallons of growers on the seed. I got a liquid system on my drill, and I mix it with water. I put a total 7 gallons down, so I do a 50-50 mix. So it's 3.5 gallons of growers and 3.5 gallons of water. It's just how it holds out for my drill. And I would go a little less, but it's a lot easier mixing in my tank when I can just fill it half full of growers, then fill it up with water. It just works the best. So I've been doing 3.5 gallons on at planting, and then in the spring we'll after green up when the wheat's out and 6-8 inches tall, I'll put a shot of nitrogen on early in the spring. Then I'll come in later and do a foliar feed, and then I'll do a second application nitrogen later on after that. So I usually do about at least three passes on the wheat in the spring. And that's been going real well. I mean, this year I think we averaged 85 bushel, and we did hit 100 bushel wheat. But since I've been feeding it in the fall with a little more growers, I think that's the key. The local agronomists here, they're telling us that, you know, the local co-op here, they're saying that, you know, phosphorus in the fall is the key to getting a good wheat crop following year. So I feel with the growers, you know, on the seed is a good deal.
How much
Start.
total nitrogen are you using on wheat? Besides
usually around 75 to 85, depends on the year.
Okay.
The use of pounds.
Yep.
Actual pounds of
Okay.
And so we're getting about 6.5. A foliar feed with 3 gallons, so we're getting a total 6.5 of growers and 75 to 85 pounds of nitrogen.
What kind of nitrogen are you using, Stanley?
I'm using a 2805. I've been getting it from Gerald. He's been bringing me some up there with the sulfur in it.
Are you using any fungicide at all, Stanley?
I do on the first spray early. Just it's trying to think of the names, like a copper-based fungicide. Just one spray early on. That's all I've been using. I think it's propaganazole,
Okay.
like a copper-based. I do that on one of the early sprays, and that's all I've been doing. I haven't. They keep pushing me to. The guy that I buy my chemicals from, he keeps trying to get me to do the late sprays, but I never bothered. I never had trouble with any vomitoxin or anything. Always had good quality wheat. So this year I had it tested. It was 389 the falling number, which you say 400 is really good for soft red wheat.
Oh, that's awesome.
I was really so I was really happy with that. So, I think the growers program and which all my fields have had a lot of lime in the past over the years, so they're definitely got plenty of calcium there too. So I think that helps creating a good.
What seeding rate would you be going at, Stanley?
I'm running at try to shoot for 1.3 to 1.5 million seeds per acre, which is usually depends on the seed size, but it's usually around 2.5 to 3 bushel. Depends on the weight of the seed.
Are you using certified seed, Stanley, or are you keeping your own?
I'm just keeping my own. Yeah.
Okay.
And then when I drill I have a monitor for the drill so I can watch the seed count, and then I usually adjust it according to that. So that seems to work pretty good. Get the right amount of seeds per acre. But no, we've been doing. I'll try a new number here and there, buy a couple bags and try it, decide what I'm doing, and if I find something I like, then I'll save some of that and go on with that. But I think this fall I planned. I think it's the third or fourth year now on bin run. I usually save it right in the summer when I'm combining and out of the good part of the field and keep a bin wagon load back. So that's been working real well. It's like Bruce said, wheat prices and grain price ain't that great, so try and make a buck where you can, save some money where you can.
Another thing, Stanley, do you do any freezer beef, or do you just take it all to processors? The beef that you finish yourself.
I do some freezer beef. It's probably only about a quarter of my beef that I raise. I do freezer trade, and then the rest I sell local. I usually try and work with some local guys that pay a little better. I mean, this year they've been paying me like $310 pound hanging weight, which is sort of an average price. But then on the years when beef was lower, they were quite a bit better. So it all sort of balances out year to year.
Sure.
But,
sure.
So that's what we do with our fats. Freezer trade,
So,
I'm trying to build that. That's building slow. I should advertise heavier. That would help on that. I haven't pushed it real hard, but.
Sure. Okay, very good. Hey, Stanley, I appreciate it. That's exactly what I was looking for. That gives guys, a lot of guys are chatting about wheat a little bit, and we're finding more growers, guys, are doing the fall application on the seed. They just
I think that's really
important. Yeah,
I think that's really, really important. Yeah. I think I didn't do it in the past. I think we started that like 5 years ago when I put the liquid kit on my drill, and my yields, since I've been spoon feeding it in the spring a little more, 2 nitrogen applications plus the growers in the fall, I definitely increased my yields on the wheat and quality. I think, we had good yields and quality. And, as far as volume, that's been a negative. Yeah, I never had trouble. And I feel that keeps me from having to use extra fungicides and that type of stuff. It saves me money on that side of it.
Sure. No, that, my whole discussion about that at the meetings is a run hog is always a run hog. Man, you get that seed going and get it healthy out of the chute, I think it can take a lot of adversity. You know, winter wheat, man, that's going to be a big deal. So hey, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, very good. Talk to you.
So I'm going to go next to the next generation growers guy. This is fourth generation, Curvin Horst. And he's also a dairyman up at the end of Ontario. And actually, we visited him this summer. And when we got there, Chris and I said, man, we got to get the heck out of here. He had bought a place where there was quite a few rocks showing. And man, he had everybody out there picking rocks. So I think that, yeah, Chris and I, he was glad we showed up, that he was going to get some free labor out of it. But he found out with us old guys, we're pretty sneaky and can get away with that kind of stuff. So you can get yourself unmuted there, Curvin, and then just kind of talk about your operation and where you're at exactly, you know, what kind of dirt you've got. And, you know, again, he's a little bit younger than the rest of us boys, so he's got to run a little tighter financial ship. So he tries to get the calcium on as he can, and see, that's why I'm hoping that this dairy thing will start helping him with that side of the equation. So if you're ready, Curvin, tell us where you're at and what's going on.
Yeah, can you hear me there?
Yep, you sound great, man.
Okay. I got a little cold come on the last day, so it wasn't planned on, but yeah. Oh, we're up here just north of Pulaski, New York. I don't know if anybody knows where the Salmon River is. A big fishing spot. I don't get any fishing done, but that's pretty close to us here. And got around 50 cows. I've been here about 3 years right on, I believe. Definitely got our hands full. So Dad's definitely been the biggest helper of getting the place rolling again. He decided that first off, we better just pattern tile the place in the first couple of years, because you could only grow corn on the hills. We didn't realize that we had aquifers under the dirt. So yeah, we're able to actually grow 90 acres of corn. And we put out 25 acres of beans this year for the first time. And have about 60 acres of hay. So yeah, didn't get any lime done yet, like Jim said, but we're trying to lean that way. We thought we were going to get a lot of clay dirt, but it actually turned out to be extremely shaly and gravelly knolls with some clay low areas. So yeah, that was quite a shocking for us. But
so on corn, Gervin, just talk about what you do as far as your fertility program is.
Well, I didn't get my planter changed liquid yet. When I use Dad's, we usually put on about 2.5 to 3 in the furrow or just under the seed. I think we had switched to that for we have some lighter ground to help get it away from the seed a little bit. He was going to try to do 2x2 this year off the side, but I'm not sure quite how that all worked out. He had a little trouble where his ammonium sulfate was going on. It was getting kind of slimy. So, yeah, as far as mine, this first 2-3 years here now, what I planted, like I said, I don't have liquid on yet, but I was usually out super late anyways with the tiling. The soil was well above 50 degrees. So I just opted for a 4 gallon per acre full air at the boot stage or whatever, the size we like. And this year, I think I finally had it had a good result on my latest corn. My middle planting, I think it was a little warm, even though it was 8 o'clock at night. I think I crystallized a bit of it. But then I had some late corn planted right beside it about 2 weeks later. And that was a cooler evening when I foliered that one. And that stuff, yeah, it caught up to the other corn by tasseling. It was just as tall. So I think I've seen a good result on the foliar this year.
So where are you? Are you done chopping, or are you still chopping corn?
We got the earlier stuff off, which was pretty late for most people. It was like the 1st of June and down to the 15th. I think we did some of that. It was a little wetter yet. So now we're waiting. Hopefully, this next warmer spell that comes along, we'll be able to get the really late stuff. The tiling man pulled out on the 28th of June, so we planted on the 29th, and and the next day I think we had 3 inches of rain, so we can identify with Bruce there on hammering it in.
Yeah.
We got some pretty good hybrids out there. I guess they can grow against all odds, I believe. But yeah,
So what
definitely.
what about your forage, Curvin? What do you try to shoot for there? Are you an alfalfa, or you got a grass mixture? What are you doing there?
This is the first year them seedings we were putting in when you were there. Those are the first actual alfalfa that we were able to get seeded around here. So I had done some foliar on my clover grass mix, but it that responded decent, I thought, for the next cutting. But I hadn't really got into implementing it the whole way yet. Kind of, yeah, you know how it is. It's kind of tight. So we're trying to figure out which guy to pay first. That's how it kind of comes out.
Sure.
But
so are you seeing any improvement in milk price per se, or what's that situation?
Yeah, it's extremely better than last year, I would say. We were about at our wits' end last July. We hit 1380, and I didn't know of any farmer around here that was saying he still was making anything. Even if he had 5,000 cows, it didn't really make a difference. But yeah, I think if our components could hold a little better, we could have easily got 2,300 this the other month, I believe. 22, 23 after trucking, I believe. So yeah, extremely better, I would say. And I didn't realize that it could get better yet. I was feeling a little more comfortable just where we're at. So
I think there's going to be some pressure on the market if this thing in California is really gaining momentum. And see those guys out there, those veterinarians, they haven't got any answers. See what you get it, and you won't have a chance. But I've read some of the literature that these guys have put out, and supposedly in those big herds, everything is perfectly sanitary, and right in the middle of where it's supposed to be perfectly sanitary, that's where they're having this 20% herd loss. So
yeah, that's pretty serious. I had no idea that they were having those kind of issues. So I'm glad you brought that up.
They've kept that. They've kept that under wraps pretty good. So some of these websites, these guys are digging some of this stuff out, and mainstream agriculture, they want everybody to think it's perfect. You get big and it's perfect, and it's not working out that way. There's some serious problems out there, like where those chicken boys are not getting paid, and the birds are starving to death. It's a very serious problem.
Yeah, you never imagined. You never think of that when they build them big barns. It's something.
Yep, that's exactly right. So, what are you? You on the dry side, or you've got decent moisture, or where are you at with that situation?
Oh, you got my wife laughing now. We're definitely still on the wet side.
Are you?
We dried up when you were there. That was about the driest we got probably, and then we got a little wet again, and then we had 12 days without rain. That was the record for the year. It was a little better than 12 inches in July. So
Wow.
yeah, we've definitely had our share. Now we're filling the little silos, so we thought we'll get this done in 2 days. So we took most of the day Monday to get started. So we got a half full, and we said, it ain't too bad. Now we only had 3.5 tents. So then by the next morning, it was ready to rain. So we spent the rest of the day getting the rest of the silo filled with in the mud because it kept raining. So yeah, we're definitely on the wet side.
Gotcha.
But we got the wettest ground done, even though it's tiled. It was still wet. So yeah, we're thankful that's off. Oh my.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
sir. Hey, Kervin, I really appreciate it. I can imagine you're dead tired, dairyman. People without livestock don't have a clue what that's all about. So I appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, no problem. So anytime, Jim.
Okay, we'll keep in touch. So, hey, Russ, I'm going to turn it back to you, and you can kind of tell them, what next month. And next month, we're going to be back in New York again. John Sensenik's got some pretty sizable vegetable guys that we visited when we were up there with John, and got a pumpkin guy, and then we had another guy that we took some sweet corn home from, and so we're going to be chatting with those guys, and then John talk a little bit about his area or the state of New York, which a lot of people didn't think could be developed into anything, and John's done a whale of a job with that. And if you guys, the calendar that's going to be coming up, I think we have a picture of the pumpkin guy this year, but the 25 calendar, we've got one of his signs. So I think you'll all find that kind of interesting when you get the new calendar. So it's back to you, Russ.
All right. Well, thanks, Jim, and thanks everyone who came on tonight. Appreciate you guys taking the time to stay up late and talk some growers and farming. So, as Jim mentioned, we'll be back next month, the second Thursday, which is it's the 14th of November.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that, we will cut it off for tonight. And if you guys came in late and missed anything, we'll have this up online in the next few days. So you can check out the full thing there. So anyway, have a good night, everyone. Take care. Bye.